I think one of the things that a lot of people have been kind of wanting to know about is how did the Q&As and the podcast, like in this sort of kind of medium, begin? I mean, we're 100 episodes in, which is fucking crazy. We broke 1 million downloads, which is insane. Mm-hmm. I think people just kind of want to hear history of like the Q&As. Like you guys just were just like one day you're like, hey, we're getting a bunch of questions. Let's fucking answer these.
I'll start it. Right. So I'll bring it to where he came in. Mm-hmm. So I was doing seminars for Louie and stuff like that. And I had a little magazine ad in Powerlifting USA for like Tribulus, which, and then creatine, sled. There's like 3 things. And then from that, I went to do a seminar in South Carolina. Donnie Thompson was actually at the seminar. And then the person I met at the seminar, Ken, who still works for us now, mentioned something about a website, Q&A and all this kind of stuff. So at that time, I was answering questions on deepsquatter.com. And I know what my limitations are. And oddly enough, over 25 years, I haven't made them better. My spelling and grammar is a little better.
No,
it's
way better.
It's way better now. It was bad. It was bad, right? So anyway, it was bad.
Fucking Jason Burnell. I know he's listening right now. You got to edit better, buddy, when Dave's writing.
No, it was bad. It was bad.
No, when I first met Dave, he was doing a seminar, and we took a break, and we started talking. Like, dude, I gotta tell you something. You gotta change.
Oh, that was the slides, man.
You gotta change a couple of those slides.
Yeah. I was using.
I never met him. I'm like, hey, listen, we gotta work on this stuff.
I was using quotations instead of the little bracket things.
Yeah. When everything was
very
political.
It was bad. It was bad. So
anyway, okay, go ahead.
So we had the Q&A. So I was running with that, and at the time it was just Ask Dave, because it was basically taking Jason's thing and then putting it on our site to where if I answered the question, it would populate in real time, so it would post immediately. And then I was going through I had a business mentorship program I was going through at the time, and they're trying to push me away and say, you need to have other people and not just you on the Q&A. And I'm like, the fuck, that it's called
Ask Dave. Like, gonna have to rebrand everything.
How's this work? And so from that, I brought in Bob Youngs. I think he was first. Yep. And then Buddy Morris and
Danny Blankenship.
A couple other ones, just to be able to help with some of the questions. And then I went to Kentucky to do a consult thing, and that's where I met Jim, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I met Dave there, and that must have been in the summertime. And then Dave had the IPA Nationals in Columbus, November? This must have been in 2000, right?
The fall, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was in 2000. And I competed there as my first powerlifting meet. And I thought I did very well. I opened up with like 700. I had no idea what I could do. I had no idea. I opened up with 700 and it was like, it was so easy. I did 775 and then like 825. And anyway, I was so excited. I'm like, 825, and then that's back when we were
these squats were ridiculous though.
The France Polys. And whatever. The point being is, it was a good meet for me, and I was super positive and stuff. And then we probably came home. Geez, was that a 2-day meet or a 3-day meet?
2-day.
Yeah, it was an awesome meet. Dave put on the best meets in the history of powerlifting, and I'm not the only one that says that. That is a 100%. You talk about, and Lori worked there. Tracy was there. You saw in their faces because they've been there for more than just 2 days. They were just like, they looked like they were POWs.
Yeah, like, walking wounded.
It's like after this, they're like, never do this to us again.
And anyway, I think the next week Dave called me up. He's like, you want to be on the Q&A? I'm like, Dave, I didn't total elite. I was like 40 pounds off or whatever it was. He's like, yeah, you did good. And plus, you're a coach and all that stuff. So that's when it started. And then it was funny because when Louie was doing seminars, Dave would come along. And then Dave started doing seminars and people were mad. Where's Louie? And then I went on all the seminars with Dave, And then eventually I would do the seminar. I was like, well, where's Dave? And then it was like,
with Louie.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not here. And then it became like, I would just do the seminars. It was just like a really weird passing of the baton with all that stuff. But I remember like probably the first year and a half, 2 years, it was like, just couldn't wait to get a question. If it was addressed to me, I'd be super excited because they were more like general questions. A lot of stuff I didn't have a terrible amount of experience of because at the time it was almost all powerlifting. And, occasionally you get a question here and there. And then it snowballed. And I don't think, we've said this a million times, but I don't think people realize how much work was put on over a long period of time. The amount of, just questions, and like I took phone calls for, I'm not saying like I was a genius, but I'm like, just, give me your number. I'll call you up and see what's going on. And just different stuff like that. And it went and it went. And we went from, there'd be a big cache of questions. And if it was overrun, there'd be like 22, like 3 pages. And you get to the third page, there's only 2. Because there was 10 per page or something. You kind of look. And then before you know it, it's 30 pages, and then 40, and then 120, and then it was 5. It just built up and built up, and it was an awesome time because I was learning a ton. And that's one of the things when you do all those Q&As and stuff, you learn so much more because all of a sudden you have a new problem, and you're like, oh my God, or you had the same problem, and you're like, well, sure, I just did something different and fixed it, or, it's right. Kevin DeWeese, when he did this, things changed. And so it's just like it's a great way of ironing out your thoughts. And, the best thing you can do is, like I always tell people, write your own book. You don't have to sell it. And then you get all these ideas down and try to explain them. I always say, I always wrote every book to my teenage kid. Like my son, I'm like, my son should be able to read most of this and understand it. And so it just irons everything out in your head. And plus, man, like I felt like, and it's funny because even at a young age, I got, just like Dave had people helping you out. I had people helping me out from a young age, and then Dave was helping me out, and then Louie was, helping me out. And it's like, now I can kind of help out too. And there is a big ego thing. I wasn't like, oh, but I'll do it for the masses. Like, yeah, if someone asked me a question and you feel like, it's an awesome honor. But, it's not like I said, it wasn't like so altruistic. Like it was, alms for the poor. You know what I mean? So, but it was, and it's funny because I look back and, I was just thinking about Bob and stuff. And, I haven't seen Danny in forever. And, I haven't talked to Martin. It was just like we didn't know how special the time was until you look back.
And who was a part, because you had Martin, Rooney, you had DeFranco, and
you had all these different guys.
Joe Ken, Buddy Morris, Thomas Linsky, yourself, Mark Bell. I mean, there's a lot of different people. There's over 1 million questions that all I need to do is put the URL back on the website because it's still there. I mean, you can find it. But I don't want traffic going to it, until there's things that are broke that we need to fix and stuff like that. But
you never know what's going to be awesome. Like I remember 122 South Main Street. I don't know how many times I fucking said that to someone. That was the old place, and there's no air conditioning there. Like it was funny because it was fucking hot in there, especially when you're 275 pounds.
And we got no fucking shirts on.
Just packing. I remember boxing stuff up in my sweat. I'm like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Sucks for him.
Fucking chew all over the fucking chest hair. Keyboards were all brown stained.
Just gross. It was an awesome time. I mean, it was not. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal. I mean,
no.
But you look back on it, and just like when you go through two-a-days, you have some fond memories of. Something that maybe wasn't terribly fun, but it was, it's crazy. I always think like, I grew up just outside of Chicago, and just through a series of squats and the internet, like just now I live in London, Ohio because of you, because you took a trip to see Todd or something, whatever. You always liked this place.
Oh yeah, here, Todd. Yeah. Todd's,
you know,
Dad.
and so
I had to get out of downtown Columbus. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
It's just funny.
Same thing like you're.
Yeah, I was like, oh god.
It was good for a while, but I'm done.
Yeah, and so there's like a little weird stuff, and it's a very cool how it all came together, and the Q&As was fun, man. I mean, especially if you just sitting at home, you're like, I gotta.
See, I needed somebody to edit the articles, and we didn't have a lot of articles at the time. There might have been 4 a month maybe, and 2 of them were just reposting from T Nation.
Yeah,
Right.
But the 2 that we did have, and he's got an English major or something like that, journalism, and he knows how to spell and write better than I do.
He done right real good.
I know to press return twice.
Well, and it helped me a lot.
That's
though,
a new
too.
thought.
It helped me a lot because those Q&As,
Commas are a thing.
the Q&As did make me a better writer. Made me to write. It made me write more concise because when you answer the same question 200 times,
Shit.
you get to just the meat of what the answer is.
Yep.
The first time you're like, okay, I'm going to show everybody how smart I am. You got 5 paragraphs.
The ATP diagram.
Yes.
And then
You're
finally
like,
it's
Krebs cycle.
just squat.
Like fucking squat.
Give
Go
more
heavier,
effort, fatty.
You know.
You breathe fat.
Yeah. So we had that, and then I'm trying to think with the table talk. There were, and it was going back to that same old place. We did record some interviews. You know, I think Jim did 1 or 2, and I did maybe 4 or 5 just on the phone, and then posted them. And then we realized, oh shit, can't do this on the internet. The bandwidth was just too much,
Right,
man. It was killing our site, and so we pulled out of that. And then the podcast, I think the podcast originally was started by Steve Colescott wanted to do some iron subculture thing, and that drove me fucking crazy. It did, because it took 6 months to do an episode. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous, whatever this is. It's terrible. And I later find out that he's trying to do all the audio editing manually and taking out the, I'm lengthy, you know, so trying to
make things more concise.
Concise, you know, with jump cuts and shit like that. I'm like, this is just a fucking, 2 people are going to listen to this, man. You're putting a month into it. So then Mark Watts started this performance one. So I would say that's kind of where it really started. And then there was I used to answer questions on the treadmill, called it From the Mill, right? Because I was so busy, I couldn't sit down and answer normally.
It made sure that you had it on 2.0.
Yeah, so yes.
Anything over 2.5.
Just sub that.
Yes. So I'd have my phone, you know, or the camera or whatever, filming that. And then I quit dieting. And I'm like, well, fuck, I ain't going to walk on a treadmill if I don't have to. Fuck that.
I can sit and do this?
I'm going to do this at the table, man. We're going to call this a table talk. And that's kind of where that went. But it's always been different.
I got out of shape from walking on the treadmill. So
I'd sit down.
You should have forced yourself to answer 5 questions a day.
On the treadmill?
Yeah, then you would have been in better shape.
Exactly. I would have stayed in shape when we came back up.
Or you could have went the other way. It's just like moon pies and talks. Like that's all you
Exactly. You could have. I could still go the other way.